Welcome to the Kanavos Show on New Earth TV, everyone. I'm your host, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, a.k.a. Kat, the co-author of the new release, #1 Amazon bestseller, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, published and distributed by Inner Tradition, Simon & Schuster. Tonight is the third of a 5-part video series that will air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time in May and the first Tuesday in June, June 5th, on the Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos public Facebook page in case you are watching a rerun. This show is going to be focusing on the International Association for the Study of Dreams, aka IASD, and their upcoming June 16th event in Scottsdale, Arizona at the beautiful DoubleTree Resort in Paradise Valley. Each show, you will meet the keynotes, the featured speakers, panelists, and presenters. And these shows are archived on the Facebook page, The Kanavos Show. Welcome to the show. So let me tell you a little bit about our panelists tonight. Dr. Stanley Krippner is our panelist from last week. Unfortunately, gremlins got into his computer, and so today we didn't feed them, and he's here with us, so we're thrilled to have him. Dr. Krippner is a professor of psychology at Saybrook University, San Francisco. He was a past president of IASD, former director of the Maimonides, I knew I'd butcher that. Medical Center Dream Research Laboratory in Brooklyn, New York, and recipient of the APA Award for Distinguished Contributions to the International Advancement of Psychology in 2002. We also have Dr. Robert Stickgold, and he is an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. I'm on Cape Cod in the summer, and he investigates the nature and function of sleep and dreams with an emphasis on their role in memory consolidation and integration. He has over 100 scientific publications, including papers in Science and Nature, and his work is funded. We have Carmen Sorrenti with us all the way from Positano, Italy, one of my favorite places, where she grew up tended to by an Aussie hippie mom. Yes, I'm reading this off the bio. An Aussie hippie mom and a host of international artists and eccentrics. And her very early food consisted of mystical Parisian poetry, Hungarian cartoon strips, singing drag acts, and travel. Then in the summer of 2012, she began having a series of dreams about plants. And this lasted a whole year and changed her whole worldview significantly. And our fourth panelist is Reverend Geoff Nelson, and he is a retired Presbyterian pastor, a trained spiritual director. Excuse me. That was Dream On is my phone call. He is a spiritual director and dream group leader. His book, Dreaming in Church, is available through Amazon and the publisher WIPF and Stock. He also started the Southern California Dream Institute. So welcome to the show, everyone. We've got an incredible panel tonight. I'm just going to start with you, Dr. Krippner. What got you into dreams?
Actually, I have been keeping dream diaries since I was in high school, and I began to have interesting, memorable, and sometimes very colorful dreams, and I thought it would be worthwhile to write them down. And then when I went to the University of Wisconsin, I took psychology classes. Dreams were mentioned one time. This is back in the late 1950s. And the professor said, dreaming in color is a sure sign of schizophrenia. And my friends of mine and I were appalled because, of course, we all dreamed in color. Now, the professor should have known better, because if he had read such journals as Science, he would have known about the Sorrenti and Krippner connection between rapid eye movements and dreams, but sometimes professors do not keep up with the literature. So that sort of galvanized my interest in looking for more information about dreams, and of course I found it and found out my professor was wrong, and I tell my students, don't believe everything that your professors tell you, including me.
I love that. So, Carmen, tell us what got you into dreams.
Well, as a very small child, I actually remember the first dream that I consciously remember when I was maybe 2, and being in southern Italy, it was a soccer match. A TV, and no one in my family was into soccer. They were all wild, having trips and God knows what. And I woke up in the morning very confused, trying to explain to my mother, saying, I saw these things in the night. There was this television, and it was black and white, and it was going off and on, and there was this song, and I was very confused about actually what had happened to me. So I remember this first impact with that world and not knowing and trying to get someone to explain it. And then as a child, because I had very vivid dreaming, I was quite afraid of it. I was sort of wondering how to deal with this other enormous world. My own life was already in the daytime extremely colorful with all the characters around. Mm-hmm. And I would say, and I try to push it aside. And then, of course, as time went on, the dreaming just became more and more vivid, the characters more and more compelling. And then in about 2000, I had a dream of this extraordinary shaman woman with white hair and these light eyes. And as she started to speak to me, I went into this trance in the dream. And she said to me, forget everything you're doing with your life. I was an actress at the time. Forget everything you're doing. You have a mission. And then she literally vanished into thin air. So I was tracking her and these other what I call power women for quite a few years. And, of course, they brought me to what I've been doing now and publishing this tarot deck of dream healers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So are you going to have that tarot deck at the IASD?
I am. Here it is with the high priestess that is the oracle at Delphi.
Oh, beautiful.
Very well. Positano is very connected to what were called Phalarkos in ancient Greece, and there were these caves where teachers and prophets would go and incubate dreams. They would wait maybe 3 days before the Asclepian dream temples. This was sort of a rudimental version.
And I talk about those dream temples in my book, so I know just what you're talking about. They're amazing. People would go in there with their spiritual leaders, like Reverend Nelson, and they would lie down next to them, and they would tandemly dream, or sometimes Dr. Nelson would dream with them, and so it was amazing. So, Reverend Nelson, what got you into dreams?
When I was in seminary, I took a class in the psychology and theology of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist. Mm-hmm. And after the class, I started keeping track of my dreams, and that was over 40 years ago. And in the beginning, I worked out a pattern of using my dreams in my daily prayers, and that's the pattern I still use to this day. It's a very notes, whatever I have on the dream, then a brief reflection on the dream, and then I write a prayer based on the dream and the reflections and everything else going on each day. So it's been quite some time, and the last 12, 14 years, I've worked with dream groups and started several down here in Southern California, and that's when I got associated with the IASD, was beginning working with dream groups.
Did we lose Dr. Stickgold? Or
nope.
Did he?
I think I'm here.
Oh, there you are. See, I'm not seeing you on my computer.
widen your screen. I'm way over at the left.
Okay, great. Okay, Dr. Stickgold, tell us what got you into your incredible dream work. And are you up at Harvard now? Are you up in Boston?
Yes, I'm up in Boston at Harvard.
Okay, great.
So what really got me into it, I think, was when I stumbled onto Alan Hobson's paper on his activation synthesis model, where he famously suggested that dreams were basically random events. And I said, either this man doesn't know what the word random means, or he never remembers his dreams. And so I just started reading more, and I had the good fortune of actually getting to meet Alan Hobson, and then went on to work with him. And that's how I got into the dream research, really, was from a disagreement with him over that issue.
You know, sometimes that works. I've had quite a few disagreements with my doctors over dreams that saved my life. They said, no, your dreams can't possibly be diagnosing your disease. And guess what? The pathology reports confirmed that they had. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. So let's talk about what you guys are going to actually be talking about or presenting on or doing at the IASD, which is going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona on June 16th at the DoubleTree Resort in Paradise Valley. Let's start with you, Carmen. You told us a little bit about your cards. What are you going to do with them?
I'm going to be presenting some of them on a big, on a projector, so in big with some of the texts, and around it make a story, anecdotes that will lead in some of these characters a little bit as if it's a piece of theater. I mean, a lot of them are based on, well, obviously all on dreaming, but on mythology, on Shakespeare, on all kinds of big archetypal stories, storylines, so that the dreams we're going to weave in and out. So you've got, for example, see, this is the Sun card. I don't know if you can see that with it.
I can. They're beautiful cards. Did you draw these cards, or did you?
Yes, it's the paintings. They're 78, so it's the traditional structure where you've got the minors, the majors, the royals, and you've got a black and white section as well, which is this idea that the aces are blindfolded, and with the four elements, the four suits, so you've got water, air, earth, and fire, and they're coming out of their heads. All the elements are coming out, and they're still blindfolded, so they're black and white, because they're still in potential. And as they go up the numbers, there's a Kabbalistic echo in this, so the experience becomes more and more intricate and in color until the 10, where you've got the focus on the open eyes, and it's become a very specific manifestation. And you've got the nights that go back and forth between the worlds, so that the other realm that is the furthest is black and white, has this sort of the guide and the psychopomp that takes you through the different dimensions.
Oh, that sounds so fascinating.
So, for example, if you get the Sun, I'll just read one just to give you a little idea. So that card that you saw ties into the Greek mythology around Apollo, god of light and poetry, music, and a whole host of things. But take your song to Apollo, for he is the essence of the light. This is how the story goes. He was born on Delos, the island aptly named the Unconcealed One. It used to be a barren perch with no name and no fixed placement, a wanderer in the stormy, windy waves, till the birth. In the inner heart lies the gold, and we have learned to conceal it. Make Delos. Here's a quest encouraging you to find the hidden elixir, the unconcealed one. It surges you upwards into the elated world, now bright with substance. Give yourself to the inner marriage. Whatever you do in this life, find your essence and be true to it.
Oh, I love that.
So there are lots of little stories like that then there'll be spreads that with a group of dreams spreads around the dream, and work between, making these inner mythologies, and not making them, they're there, but developing dialogue with them.
Oh, I love that. For those of you just tuning in, This is the Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos Show, the Kat Kanavos Show, and I'm your host, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, and we are interviewing the presenters for the IASD who will be in the Doubletree Resort Paradise Valley in Scottsdale on June the 16th. So, Reverend Nelson, tell us what you're going to be doing at the IASD.
I've done several workshops in the past on safety in dream groups and using dreams in church and so on and so forth. But this year, I'm going to do it'll be a very small workshop addressing the issues of trying to bring dream work into institutions. In my case, of course, it's trying to bring dream work into institutionalized churches. But I'm hoping that I'll get people who will come from academic institutions, any other places where they have tried to do dream work and found some kind of resistance. And we'll talk about what works, what doesn't work. My hope is that in this little gathering in Arizona, we'll be able to put together a panel for future conferences that will address the issue of bringing dreams and dream work into institutions.
Oh, that's a great idea because, one of the things I talk about with the dreams that saved my life and a lot of the other dreams that came in and saved other people's lives is sometimes technology and medicine can go so far and then comes God. And that's what I told the doctors, the reason I'm telling you about these dreams is because the technology stopped and my higher power has come in. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. More people need to realize that we have those sacred dream doorways to the divine, and we need to allow them to be open. So, Dr. Stickgold, tell us what you're going to be doing.
Well, I'm doing two things. I'm giving one of the keynote addresses, and in that talk, I'm going to try to talk about what we know from a more classically scientific perspective about dreaming. I'll talk about studies we've done in my group looking at the incorporation of waking events into our dreams. Our now famous, Tetra studies back in 2000 where we showed how people incorporate that at rates of above 75% of subjects incorporated into their dreams at sleep onset. And then I'm going to be talking about some studies that were really led by Erin Walmsley, who's now out on her own, but was with me at the time, looking at how dreaming is related to sleep-dependent memory processing. We now know from 15 years of research that the brain is working all night long, taking the events of our day and trying to figure out what they mean. It's very easy to store a memory. It's much, much harder to figure out what it means. And it turns out that the brain just needs to go offline 1 hour for every 2 hours you're awake to just figure out what it means. And Erin wanted to look at the role of dreaming in that memory processing. And so I'll be talking about her studies showing how people who dream about a recent learning experience are actually the ones who show the biggest improvement in their performance on that task as a result of dreaming. And I'm going to talk about how this reflects about possible functions of dreaming in terms of helping the brain understand the significance in our own lives of events from our day. And then the other thing I'll be doing, along with Tony Zadra, is a symposium of a half dozen of us, I hope, where we're going to talk about what we call the myths of dreaming. And we'll be talking about everything about the myth that we only dream in REM sleep to the myth that we dream in black and white. And it turns out there's a whole slew of these myths out there in the general population that turn out also to be there in the universities, in the medical schools, where it seems that most academicians and most clinicians get most of their information about what dreaming is all about from the tabloids at the checkout counter in their local grocery store. And so Tony and I are working on a project to try to illuminate this whole field.
That sounds really, really fascinating. I know that one of the stories in my book was about a woman who was going to Catholic school and the nuns had asked the classroom if any of them dreamed, and she raised her hand. And the nun said, well, tell me your dream. And she talked about all these beautiful colors in her dream. And the nun says, nobody dreams in color. You're making this up. And she was devastated. She was like, no, I really do. I'm not making this up. And so the nun then said, okay, raise your hand here in the classroom if you dream in color. And the woman said 90% of the class raised their hand. So it was really just the nun who didn't. So, Dr. Krippner, tell us what you're going to be doing.
Well, I want to pick up on your marvelous book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, because this is a book, I think, that demonstrates how we can apply dream science very practically. One of my students at Saybrook University wrote his dissertation on dreams that predicted health issues. Now, some people think, this is mysterious. People are seeing into the future. I look at it a little different way. I look at it as memory consolidation, what Dr. Stickgold has spent so many years doing. Once people start to consolidate memories, body memories, emotions, memories, past history, health issues, it makes sense for them. All of these things fit together as a puzzle, and I'd better watch out because I'm going to have a severe health issue. And then they dream about it. It's like a warning system. And I'm going to be talking about some laboratory studies that we have been doing, actually, at Maimonides Medical Center several years ago, but the studies have been followed up, where people seem to dream about future events. And I look at it not as something esoteric or mysterious, but as a natural process where dreams consolidate information, and then they have a fair chance of guessing what's going to happen in the future. So there has been 50 years of this type of research, and the work that we did at Maimonides many, many decades ago has now been repeated at several other laboratories, and so it's a topic that's worthwhile looking into, and of course I'll tell some interesting stories, interesting examples. But now that this work has been published in mainstream journals like the International Journal of Dream Research, we can't dismiss it. We have to take it seriously. And I think the most important thing that's come out of our research is that psychotherapists can no longer say, you claim you're dreaming about the future? You're delusional. This is a sign of mental illness. No, you can't say that anymore. This is a common theme in dream reports. And so if nothing else, I think that we've depathologized a lot of people's unusual dreams.
Must be very gratifying. Must be very gratifying to see it come back around again.
It is, yeah. Because I did have... actually, when I had to go from my Boston doctors to my New York doctors to continue my treatment because I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor, the Boston doctors were quite upset and told the New York doctors that I should see a psychiatrist before they worked on me, and it was because of my dreaming. And it turned out that after the doctors in New York spoke with me, they said, you know what, if she did not demand these tests, then we would feel that she needed to see a psychiatrist. So dreams are starting to really come out and be embraced and no longer shoved into the closet as a toy that we needed to put away as a child. And I am just so tickled to have you guys on my show. And just so that my audience knows, I do blog this show. It goes on to Pathos, which is one of the largest religious blogs. And then it also goes into Biz Catalyst 360, which is an international online magazine. So I can't wait to hear what my readers comment with this panel today, because it's a pretty amazing panel. So quickly, we're coming down to our last 5 minutes, so I'd like for you to each take like a minute and tell us where we can find you, how we can get to your website, and anything pertinent that you would like to tell us. And let's start with Dr. Stickgold.
Well, the easiest way to find my website is just to Google my name, Robert Stickgold. What you really want to do is wait a couple of years. Tony Zadra and I have just signed a book contract with Norton. So we'll have a book on dreaming coming out entitled When Brains Dream. That'll have everything you want to know about the subject that Tony or I have anything to say about.
How exciting. Can't wait for that. I'll have you on my show all by yourself to talk about that one. Carmen, how about you? How can we find you? And by the way, Carmen is on the show with us all the way from Italy. And, Dr. Stickgold is from Boston, so it's 3 hours ahead right now. So thank you for being with us, guys. I know your time change is a challenge. So, Carmen, how can we find you?
So, yes, I am here from Italy, and so I'm going to pronounce now an Italian surname, Sorrenti, which is easy, though, because it's like the town Sorrento, like come back to Sorrento, which is not a love song like everyone thinks. It was actually for the postal services. They're like, bring the letters back to Sorrento. And it's become one of the most famous worldwide love songs, you know. So my surname is Sorrenti, and I have a website, carmensorrenti.com, very easy. And the tarot is called the Philarkos Tarot. So any of those, I'll just put it up. So the spelling, Sorrenti, Carmen Sorrenti. Any of those will take you to all the various links about what I do. And I just wanted to add very quickly to what you were talking about before. Whenever I meet different people, and I meet a lot in my travels all over the place, I'm always talking to people about their dreams and taking them aside. And I find there are so many people that once you start to listen to their dreams, they will talk about it in a kind of hush-hush way. But so many people talk to you about precog or prophetic dreams. It's incredible how many people, but they talk about it as if they're like, oh yeah, you know what I dreamt. Oh God, as if it's unbelievable. And this thing, it's so great that this is starting to become normalized. Because I think, it happens all the time, all over the place. But people think it's supposed to be sort of, oh my goodness, So,
yes. Yeah. So if you're listening or listening later, come to the IASD and share your dreams with us. We don't whisper about them. We yell about them. So, Dr. Reverend Nelson, tell us how we can find you.
The best thing would be just go try to find my book. Everything I have to say about dreaming more or less is in there. I have a website for the Southern California Dream Institute, but that really is only an internet presence and has functioned a few times to do some regional IASD conferences here in Southern California. So look up the book, Dreaming in Church, or scdinet.net for the website.
Okay. And all of these books, those of you who are authors, are you going to be bringing your books with you to the IASD to sell them in the bookstore? Great. Yes. Great. So our audience, you can actually purchase their books at the bookstore, and if you can chase them down the hall, you might be able to get them to sign them. And Dr. Krippner, how can we find you?
I actually have a website. It's www.stanleykrippnerweebly.com. All of my books are listed on there. My most recent book about dreams is Ways of Working with Dreams and Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Nightmares. Mm-hmm. This is the first book that tells how Jungians work with nightmares, how psychodynamic therapists, cognitive behavioral therapists, transpersonal therapists, humanistic psychotherapy work with nightmares, and you see that they're all different but all the same. And how does people who have recurring nightmares, well, they're stuck. From the point of brain chemistry, these impulses get stuck in the amygdala and the hippocampus because they're so emotional, and we've got to find out ways of getting them unstuck and so that they can pass through and become part of memory, part of a person's repertoire, and not get stuck night after night after night when persons dream about an accident, a rape, war combat, etc. Very, very important topic, and this is one of my specialties that I've devoted several years to working on.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, because most of the people in the book Dreams That Can Save Your Life had recurrent nightmares, and it wasn't until they answered that call to action that they started to figure out the answer and figured out that they had a disease and needed to address it. So that's really exciting. All of you out there in the audience, if you're having nightmares, make sure you go and see Dr. Krippner at the IASD. Bring him your nightmare. He'll love it. So I want to thank you all for being a guest on the Cat Kanavos Show. And I hope you guys will come back again for future IASD conventions and events, and we can talk about what you're doing then. So thank you guys so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Yes, thanks for setting it up.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. So everyone, you've been listening to the Cat Kanavos Show on New Earth TV. Big thanks to our producer, Rachel Love. Tune in next week for more IASD presentations on dreams. This show is archived on the Cat Kanavos Show Facebook page. And if you like this show, please go there and leave us a message and share it onto your page. If you have a dream to share, Dreams That Can Save Your Life 2 is being written now with Dr. Larry Burke and I. So until next time, remember, we all dream, but some dreams save lives. Good night, everybody.